Every now and then, I like to actually talk with a community member about their experience following a dietary method or something that I have talked about in the past on this YouTube channel. So today's guest and I are going to discuss her experience following more of a long-term keto or carnivore diet and some of the issues that she came into contact with. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel. Today's guest and I are really going to get down and talk about following a keto or carnivore diet, her experience as a carnivore coach, and how some people may not respond as well as others. And again, as I said in the intro, I really like to talk with people who are doing these dietary strategies, not just people who are kind of leaders in the community, because what ends up happening when you are a leader in the community is that you don't necessarily talk to the end user. You don't necessarily talk to everyone. You kind of just use yourself as the example and assume since you're doing well, everything you're talking about is also working out really well for everyone else. So today's conversation is really going to dive deep into the experience of this wonderful lady, as well as the experience of a lot of her clients that she has worked with. And we're also going to talk about some biohacking stuff and just kind of the tendency to maybe go overboard a little bit and what that can look like. So I hope this episode is super, super helpful for anybody who is just out there trying different strategies, maybe can offer you some insight if you are struggling right now. All of the links for contacting my guest are going to be in the show notes if you are looking to get in contact with her or follow her on social media. And I want to thank really quickly a couple sponsors. The first one is going to be VivaRays. We do talk extensively about circadian rhythms in this episode. VivaRays is my go-to source for protecting my circadian rhythms with their blue blocking glasses. You can use my code YOGI to save 15% off of those glasses. They're actually tested with a spectrometer, so you know that what you're getting is quality. There are a lot of other knockoff brands that may not do what they say they are doing. These are really great quality blue blockers. The second sponsor of today's show is going to be Optimal Carnivore. You can use my code carnivore uppercase Y to save on those organ meat supplements as well as their Brain Nourish, which I love. It is beef brain and lion's mane, and it is just fantastic for helping you with brain fog and just bringing up that brain energy. So again, carnivore uppercase Y to save on Optimal Carnivore. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And a quick little reminder, my quantum nutrition course is on promo introductory sale for only a couple more weeks, actually one more week as of the date that this episode will post. So if you're interested in a course that has no dogma, where you can really learn all about nutrition as a whole and how we actually have ancestral nutrition woven into this program, check that out. Again, one more week to get that introductory price, and that link will be in the show notes for you. Let's jump into the episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, to the show. Really excited for today's guest. Now, we have kind of been talking like friends probably for the last year or so, I would say, maybe even longer than that. But I'm trying, we were just talking before I turned the camera on, trying to have more of these conversations with people who are on the receiving end of a lot of the hype that's out there about keto, about carnivore, about fasting, and kind of what the fallout is, what it's doing to people. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me. I feel like it's really important, your authenticity and what you share on your platform. Out of a lot of people that I have followed since I started this journey, I've always noticed that you've been honest with people and just in your journey and as you evolve with things. And I just really appreciate that about you. And I think you're doing really important work. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. And I've definitely screwed up a lot over the last few years of putting information out and doing videos, and that every now and then I'll be like, oh, that one has to come down, because I'll get really excited about something and then talk about it before I really give it the litmus test, and put it out with clients. So it's definitely been an adventure. And I try to always, if I learn something new, to come out and say, hey, I was wrong about this and let's shift, so thank you for that. Cause I really do try hard, but even this morning, somebody in my group was like, what about this video? And I was like, oh, I need to take that one down. Don't listen to that. No, don't do that. So yeah, it's a learning process. It really is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Over the past year and a half, that's been 16 years of healing for me.
Yes.
When I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And then after that, since I went keto, now it's been, I don't know what's happening. It's interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I was about to say. Let's talk about you. You had this long journey with ulcerative colitis. And, that's a lot of people that kind of come to the keto carnivore space. They do have some sort of a chronic health condition that is severely impacting their life. And there's a lot of kind of like hype about these different diets. And so I want to talk about your experience with all of that. So let's jump in wherever you feel is relevant.
Well, I'll just kind of give a recap. In 2006, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and that just completely rocked my world. It was really, really bad. And then 2007, I got sober. And when I got sober, I had some more clarity around my health. So I started venturing into working on myself more. And I found that I had also sugar addiction, binge eating disorder, all of these things. So I went into recovery for these things. And as I started slowly taking out these quote unquote alcoholic foods or binge foods for me, which were, once I started, I couldn't stop. I started to notice some relief in the ulcerative colitis, but not all the way. And so just kind of fast forwarding, I was doing this low carb sort of paleo on and off. And at that point I was a pretty normal, I was pretty small actually. And I'm not a large person. But I was getting to become like the smallest I had ever been, just through this type of paleo, low carb. And then in 2017, so I had my kids, I was able to stay recovered, maintained sort of, I gained the weight that I needed to, lost it naturally through nursing and all of these things. But the ulcerative colitis was still happening. So I was on and off medication. I should say I was on like a lot of medication in the beginning. And I slowly, once I got off the alcohol and the sugar came out, that started to get better. And I would have little small bouts of remission, but then it would come back. So in 2017, I read Dr. Perlmutter's book. I was introduced to the ketogenic diet. I was like, this is it. I'm going to do this. This is probably going to bring out the inflammation. So I started that. And then I learned about intermittent fasting. And my son, I had nursed him for about 17 months and he naturally weaned off. So as soon as he was done, I was like, I'm going to start fasting. And it was on. I mean, there were days where I was 18, 24, OMADs, 36 hours, like within a week, I was doing this. And I did. It worked for a while, drinking the black coffee, doing all the things. And then I never like tested ketones or anything like that, but I was definitely like getting even more fit. And then I found, and I sort of like played with that since 2017. And then I found carnivore in 2021. And I was like, maybe this, and still having little bouts of ulcerative colitis. So I would go on and off the medication, I think because I was overstressing my body. And I was still eating certain vegetables that do cause problems for me, like kale and spinach and things like that. And raw. I mean, I was grinding this stuff up raw and chugging it and trying to go keto vegetarian before there was some issues going on with my digestion. I saw a GI who was like, I think you should probably not be having spinach and kale like that. And I don't know why she said this to me. I'm not exactly sure why, but in my practice, I've noticed that meat is something that most of her patients can tolerate. And it's the vegetables that seem to be a problem. So don't go vegetarian. And of course, I was devastated because I wanted to be this like yogi who like did all of these things and vegetarian and earthly and conscious and whatnot. So I had to like get through that. And then I found Kelly Hogan in 2020 and I found these carnivore folks. And then I started researching carnivore and ulcerative colitis and a few things came up where it said like these people experienced like amazing results with their digestion. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this. I kind of experimented. Well, I didn't experiment. I jumped hardcore in there. I actually worked in the beginning with Austin Cavelli, Quality Carnivore, who helped me a lot understanding how I'm not someone who just jumps into something without a professional. Like I typically have a coach, or I'm testing. I'm not, test, don't guess. I'm big on that. So we did all the blood work. We did all the things. I go into carnivore. I started noticing a lot of like bloating going away, just all of these things stopped. And I was like, this is it. You say this all the time. Like if you're doing something and it's working, do it harder, do it faster.
Yeah.
And I was doing fasting, even though she was like, I'm not really sure you should be doing the fasting. I still couldn't let that go because I was doing black coffee, fasting, eating my meat, doing
it feels so good because you get so addicted to the stress hormones, and people don't realize that because they're like, the fasting it feels so amazing. And I'm like, that is stress hormones. Like you're addicted to it. And I can say it because I've done it. And then I talk with people like you, and it probably also helps the ulcerative colitis as well. That's what is so elusive about fasting, and it's working. And then all of a sudden,
yeah. And I was majorly addicted. Like I was like, this is it. Like I have found it. I was like, I would wake up in the morning, I would have that black coffee on a fasted state. And it was like, I was on fire. I could do the whole house would get clean. All the things would happen. Like everything would happen, all the things like within a short period of time. And then I was go. Like I never gave myself rest. And then I started cold plunging daily.
Oh no.
11 minutes a day.
Oh no.
Because it felt, I got addicted.
It felt so good. Yeah. I did too.
So good.
Oh yeah. And when I first started cold plunging, it was like, I got up to twice a day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then I was like, where did the period go? Why period? Oh, no.
We have a lot in common because
I know well, you and I both have that like addiction thing in the background also, that we're both in recovery. So we just have that natural tendency to be like a moth to the flame. Like, ooh, this feels great. I got to just do more of it, and we think it's not alcohol or drugs or sugar. So it must be good for us. So yeah. So continue.
But so like that first week, like on day 3 or something, I would get out and I would notice like my left eye would start twitching. And then I was like, oh, that's weird. And then all of a sudden the twitch didn't go away.
Oh no.
So I realized, so then I reached out to Austin and she was like, oh my God, what are you doing? You got to stop doing that. Like you were stressing out your body so much that your minerals are literally being squeezed out of you.
Yeah.
And so I actually used your code and I did the upgraded formulas. I did the whole thing.
HTMA. Yeah.
And they're like, are you chronically stressed out? Like, are you under trauma? Are you having like, and I was like, no, actually I feel really good. I just got this twitch in my eye. And she was like, and then we looked at this. She was like, you got to stop. They gave me all of this stuff, which took about 4 months for my eye to stop twitching. It was a daily twitch, 4 months. That's how bad I wrecked myself. And then the weight started to come on.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm like, so I didn't actually notice it right away, but like, and I'm someone who doesn't weigh myself, but and my clothes just fit tighter. It's not like things are coming, like I can't fit into my clothes. They're just they're tighter. And I'm more of the type of person that my weight distributes throughout my body pretty evenly. So, I mean, I clearly,
sneaky.
Yeah, it's very sneaky. And a lot of people don't notice it, but it's definitely there. I mean, I was like tight and I'm not anymore. And so now and then I was like, okay, maybe I need to go higher fat. Like we're going to go even higher fat. And so I went and had some tests done and, all those mineral things were looking fine. So I go higher, I go deeper into ketosis, still drinking coffee, and my anxiety is out the roof. The deeper into ketosis I was going, the more I was having anxiety. I think it's because of the caffeine. Yeah. And I started, and like carnivore fixed that, right? Like carnivore fixed my thing. I was like, this is amazing. I feel so good. And my brain, I feel calm. I feel connected. Like, what is this? Is crazy. And then every 5 minutes, I felt like it was a full week where every 5 minutes, I felt like I was on the verge of a panic attack. And I was like, something's wrong with something's wrong with me. So I intuitively was like, it has to be the coffee.
Mm.
And so I was like, let me just put that down. And I was so desperate that I think that was the only thing that was actually going to make me put the coffee down was desperation. That's how I am. Like, it's got to get painful for me.
Yeah.
And so I put it down and I noticed that went away. And then I had my leptin tested and it came back low at like 2.8, something like that. And I think that's when I messaged you. I was like, this is what's going on with me. And I was like, please keep doing what you're doing because we are the folks here that need it. And so then, and then from there on, I was like, okay, I'm going to, I'm currently in your leptin reset. I'm learning a lot about things that I know, like being outside, but like also just reflecting on the days where there are days in the winter when we go to my in-laws and they're like 5 acres of land and they have a fire pit. I will literally sit outside with my, I have one of these with my minerals out there, have my breakfast, take the kids. I'm like, you guys do whatever you want out here.
Nice.
Just go. Take off your shoes, please. Nice. We take off our shoes. We've got this fire going and I'll sit out there for as long as I possibly can until the sunset. And then I'll do blue block. Like I'll eat, come back out, nice. Blue blockers, go back in. And I noticed like my hunger signals are very different when I was doing that. And I'm not as hungry also, but I also feel like my digestion is the best that it's ever can get when I'm like doing that. I mean, I'm like out there literally for 3 hours, touching dirt, rubbing dirt, reading books. Like I'll take little videos for my phone, but then my phone is like over there on the boat.
Yep.
Like leave me alone. And I'm out there doing my thing. And I have noticed the more that I incorporate nature is where I am thriving the most. I am still nervous about coming off fully. Like I'm still keto, but I have added things back and my digestion is better than it's ever been. I'm not doing like sticks of butter. And I have had like my mother-in-law has an organic garden. So this year for Thanksgiving, I made like a cauliflower thing. Nice. And so I was able to get my hands on some local broccoli and I've had that. So I'm just trying to, live that's more of a circadian lifestyle around, but I am still like, I'm going to be completely honest. This mindset that I've been in since 2017 of the fasting and the ketones and the ketosis, it is really hard to let go of.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard, and I think the education piece is so important. That's why I try to keep bringing in all these different experts that are more from the quantum and circadian lifestyle, because that's what helped me to kind of detach a little bit from that and exit out of that. I do think that ketosis and carnivore can still be really helpful and therapeutic for people, but you have to use them as a therapeutic tool and not like make it your entire life. That circadian piece, and I love what you're saying about how you feel better and your digestion's better. Our gut clock is synced with sunlight. It's synced with touching the earth, and the cells in our body, our gut cells, they're going to turn over when our circadian rhythms are intact, when we're having as much time outdoors and our body knows what time it is, it can signal to the gut. So when you're sleeping, it can signal to the gut to turn over those cells that were causing you a lot of pain and causing you a lot of trouble. So, a lot of people are like, oh, Sarah just is like, go outside or whatever. But there's a lot of science behind this lifestyle, behind the circadian lifestyle. Your body gets all of this energy from the red infrared light from the sun, from UV light. Your body gets energy from being around that fire and all that, infrared from the fire. That can actually increase mitochondrial function. And a lot of the issues that people deal with whether it's ulcerative colitis or some other autoimmune disorder, those are based around a mitochondrial issue. And, when you have mitochondrial dysfunction, these different disorders are going to show up depending on your genetics, right? So there is a genetic component, but I might have hair fallout. You might have bad ulcerative colitis. It's just going to manifest differently in people, but it makes me so happy to hear that you're, implementing these things. And I think that's the key, is just to start learning more and educating yourself more around these types of things, because we can get so, and you and I both, like, we're on Instagram and on social media, listening to different podcasts and watching different influencers. We can get in this place where we just think that, like, that's the only way that we're going to get better. And that's the only way that we're going to heal. And, we were talking about this a little bit before I turned on the camera to record, that there's just, and that's why I want to bring you here, is there's a lot of women out there. And unfortunately, I've talked to men also. So it's not just women. But there are a lot of women out there who compare themselves to these influencers and think that there's something wrong with them when it doesn't work out the way that it does for this specific influencer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And, my biggest thing lately is pushing like testing and getting to know yourself. And, because ultimately that's what I would see some of this stuff and I would see it working for me. And then like my test results were good. That was the thing.
Yeah.
And then at some point, like you said, like, I think there's a time and a place, like if you're going to do carnivore, like I still have, my breakfast is fully carnivore. I have eggs, salmon, and, I go outside and I sit, I have what is that? Elementi, the chocolate salt. I think I remember last year you used to do that.
Oh, I do that. And I still, I don't talk about it so much, just because the mineral thing is so individual. And some people do the LMNTs and it tanks out their potassium. And so it's so intricate and different for everyone. But because I'm breastfeeding, my mineral needs are higher. So I do that warm water with the chocolate salt element tea sometimes in the mornings. It's great. Cause I'm losing so much with breastfeeding, but yeah, I think that can be a good bridge for people if they want to come off the coffee and they still want something nice and savory and like enjoyable in the mornings. Or you could do warm water with lemon, apple cider vinegar. But yeah, I love that combination.
That's what I've been having that to like, because I replaced it immediately with the coffee, because I was like, wait a second, I think there was one that it was literally like a year and a half ago. I think you're like, I'm quitting coffee, and I have like in your stories, and I was like, that looks like black coffee. I think I could do that. At least it looks,
it helped get me over the hump, because I just was for years just enjoyed that ritual of the warm morning beverage. And so, yeah, that was what I ended up switching to. And in the summer this year, I just would do mineral water. I didn't even do coffee.
I think I'm
warm.
I'm getting slowly, I'm like getting off of that. Well, now that it's winter, I do like, I go
the warm beverage is nice.
Yeah. But like being barefoot outside.
Yeah.
It's cold. I have my jacket, and it's my favorite thing. I get up, and now my kids are like, Mom, hurry. It's a beautiful sunset. I'm like, sunrise. They're like, well, Mommy, it's a beautiful sunset. You're going to miss it. Everything is a sunset for them.
That's sweet.
I think they realize this is my religion, that the sun has become, because my daughter will be like, Mom, I'm reading this book and I have to read you this part. And I'm like, okay, you're going to love it. It's like, he sat up on the mountain and watched the sunset.
Aww. That's so sweet. I love it. I love it.
One sentence of this. So anyway, it's sweet. But, passing that, down to them, knowing that it literally is, I tell them it's the code, it's the life. Everything depends on this thing that is in the sky, including you. You are made up of it. And everything that happens, you're connected to that. So if you go outside and you stand on the ground, when we go to like Nepal or somewhere, and this is what I do when I travel, I will go outside, put my feet on the ground, and I'll look up, and I will try to make sure that I get sunset that night, because then my body orients, and like literally the next day I am going to the bathroom at the same time that I would go to at home.
Yeah. That's so important, is syncing yourself to the location of where you are. And it's, in the winter time, we don't go outside, and the sun is in a completely different place in the winter than it is in the summer. I never knew that until I started really being connected in the circadian way. I was like, okay, sunrise was happening over here in the summer. Now it's winter. It's kind of over here. Same thing with sunset. It's kind of in a different spot, and the sun is at a different angle of the sky in the winter than it is in summer. And when we're not giving our bodies that information, our body doesn't know what time of year it is. And like I said, your gut cells, they turn over in accordance with these circadian rhythms and this timing. And all the cells in your body have a time clock on them. And if we're not exposing our eyes and our bodies to these natural rhythms, our bodies are not going to function as efficiently. And so I used to just be food, diet. And trust me, it's still important that you eat a nutrient dense, local, seasonal diet. Very important, because that contains also the light code of where you live and what time of year it is. But I teach now people, I'm like, let's do the circadian health first. That's going to help you to make an easier transition to a diet change, because a diet change can be really, really difficult for some people. And if they have that circadian piece in, not only does it support their neurotransmitters and their whole rest of their body, but it just makes that transition over to changing the diet that much easier, you know?
Yeah. And I think it does. I mean, I can see that. That wasn't my experience because I did it all backwards.
Me too. Me too.
But like now too, with like, I see people and I'm like, okay, so first thing we need to do is just, can you crack a window and look outside and then eat breakfast right away? And then they're like,
right. They're like, that's too simple. Why would I do that?
And they're like, well, I can't, what do you mean, eat breakfast? I thought we were intermittent fasting till lunch. And then they'll do that. And lo and behold, people who get really good sleep, I think that's really key. And from what I'm seeing, they will drop like those extra few pounds just from adding something as small as breakfast. And then this is just a family friend. She follows me on Instagram. She's like, I've been implementing everything that you do. I go outside now for 15 minutes at lunch and 15 minutes because she works and she can't just a 15-minute walk. She's dropped 20 pounds. She's like, I'm going a little bit more like she went low carb. She's not like keto or anything. She just dropped the 3 times a day rice that she was eating. And she dropped 20 pounds. And now she's like, I added breakfast and I took away coffee and I'm feeling great. She just messaged me again. I was like, that's awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. And then, when people do my 21-day course, I get messages a lot. The first message I get is like, oh my gosh, I'm sleeping so much better. Or I used to just wake up every day at 4 a.m. and couldn't go back to sleep. And I slept until 7 a.m. this morning or 6, that's the first thing that changes. Everybody wants the quick weight loss. Everybody wants the pounds to fall off. I'm like, look, your sleep is going to shift. That's huge. Then you're going to have more energy and then the weight will come off. It's going to usually happen in that order. And you may initially just drop a few pounds of inflammation right away because you're shifting that cortisol pattern. And that's really at the root of a lot of problems. Like, the
cortisol.
Yeah, the cortisol is such a huge issue. And what people don't realize when they're doing all this hardcore fasting and chronic restriction and black coffee is that you are jacking up your cortisol patterns. And the younger that you are, I think the longer that you can get away with it.
Yeah.
But my audience, I have a lot of women over 40, and men too, but I get women a lot of the time in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s that are reaching out to me, and they've kind of joined all these more, these groups where groupthink. And it's like, if you're having no results, then it's your fault, not the method. Right. And then I kind of pull them slowly over here. I'm like, let's do these little changes. And they're just shocked at how much better their sleep is. And they didn't have to spend $2,000 on hormone testing. And I'm like, don't do that. Like, you can, if you want to down the road, but let's do this for 90 days first before you go out of pocket $3,000 for testing, because we might just get rid of a lot of stuff just by doing this, this kind of more simple routine.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then also eating like, so I went from like the whole fasting thing to then slowly I was like, oh, mad, too mad. And then it was like, okay, my stress levels are getting really high. I have eye twitches. I have some funky stuff going on. I'm going to add breakfast back. And I did it for like a week and it was so hard. I stopped.
Yes, it is hard.
And like so hard. And then I slowly added it back again. And then right before the time change, I was having breakfast. I was having like a small like snack, kind of a fattier snack. Then I was having lunch and then I was having a snack again. And then I was having dinner because I could almost feel when my cortisol was coming up through my like hunger signals, but it was like, and then I would just check to see what was happening to my glucose and my glucose would be going up because of the stress. And so, you know, I mean, just now I came back from Pilates and I'm still sort of playing around with what does my stress look like and when does it rise? And my glucose was at 100 after Pilates because it was intense. But yeah, so it's like that's, and now that the sun has gone, you know, goes down at like 4:30, I find that I only need to have those 3 meals, but I never ever miss breakfast. Actually, I don't miss my meals.
That's good.
And you know, maybe one day I will decide I won't have dinner if I don't need to one day. But right now, I'm not skipping that either, no matter what. Even if it's like within that even if it's within that like 4 to 5 hours, I will rather eat my dinner, even if it's like at 3 hours, because my lunch was maybe at the 5-hour mark. Like today, my lunch is going to be more at the 5-hour mark. And then my dinner is probably going to be more at the 3.5-hour mark, just because I don't want to skip it, because I don't want to get that stress at night.
Yeah. And I think that's so important to like listen to those signals of your body, like that. It's causing you too much stress to miss meals. And like I said, fasting, I think there's some great benefits to fasting for people. Definitely. However, when you're stressed out, when you already have dysregulated cortisol, it's not necessarily a good idea. And you're not going to receive the therapeutic benefits of fasting if your cortisol is high, because cortisol opposes melatonin. And those therapeutic benefits of fasting happen in our sleep when we have autophagy and apoptosis through melatonin production. Melatonin production is what allows those processes to actually happen. So if you have high cortisol, because cortisol opposes melatonin, you're not getting autophagy and apoptosis. And all you're doing with the fasting is literally stressing your body out. And a lot of people are like, oh, but the cavemen, they fasted, our ancestors, they fasted. But I think back to what you just said about sitting outside all day in front of the fire, being outdoors and being less hungry and feeling so good. That's what they did. They were not sitting on cell phones and computers and driving in cars. They did not live the way that we do. And so the caveman argument when it comes to fasting is bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, it needs to be said. Maybe I need to do a post on that, but honestly, it's just not a fair comparison, you know? And
we live in a modern world. And I feel like we need modern ways, you know, we need to be able to fit our modern lifestyle into this. And I think that means eating, for me, it means eating more regularly, because I don't get to do that every, you know, we do a 7-day beach trip where we literally camp on the beach.
Oh, nice.
Fires, like it's
amazing.
The most and there actually is no cell phone reception there. So even if you wanted to, you have to go on this one hill to get it. But like people can't do that every day. You know, we can't, but we can make adjustments. And I think we can use that food because, you know, I think also, right, like food has, it can charge our body as well with the negative ions, depending on what it is
the foods that you're eating nutrient dense meat, like you're eating a lot of foods that are really healthy for you. I would feel differently about eating, you know, if you were eating like, Pop-Tarts and junky food. A lot of the food I know that you're eating contains the light code for where you are and for this time that's appropriate in the year. So I think that what you're doing is fantastic. And, I just want to continue this conversation because I think it's so important that we just educate people and empower them with the information that there is nothing wrong with them if they cannot do, an OMAD or do all this extreme fasting and they're not seeing weight loss and they're not seeing results, and even doing strict carnivore. I think that for long periods of time, I'm now getting a wave of people coming to me that have gained 20, 30, 40 pounds. And it's that whole like cortisol element, that stress element. And I'm like, okay, whoa, it's crazy.
Well, I also, I noticed too, for me that I tested in the beginning and then I stopped testing, I just was eating the meat, doing the things. And then one day I was like, oh, well, looks like I'm gaining a little weight. So I started testing again, and I tested after I ate just like a huge, like ribeye, like just demolished the whole thing, which I had done several times before. And my blood sugar was like at 140.
Yep.
Which is like, and
that's so, like you just ate a piece of cake.
Yeah. It looked like that, and it freaked me out. I mean, I know gluconeogenesis is a little bit different than eating cake, but like my blood sugar was still high. And then I noticed the next time I went to get my A1C was like at 4 something, and then it was like at 5.1.
Yep. So it went up. Yeah.
It went up. And so clearly that was because I think that I was just pounding way too much protein for my height.
Oh yeah. Weight. That's a big problem. And that's why in my Leptin Reset, I'm like, I want women to not necessarily go up to like, 50, 60 grams of protein per meal, because that a lot of times can also cause issues with insulin.
Yep. That's what happens to me.
Yeah. I'm the same way. And it's like, if someone is not like a major intense athlete with like a ton of muscle on their body, or a male, it's harder for female to break down that amount of protein, and, be able to can maintain a stable blood sugar. And that's how I felt. I would have these like major blood sugar swings when I was doing really high protein, and, I had to take it down. But on the flip side of that, when I was doing really, really high fat, and some women are like this, some women are not, but I was gaining weight and I had really high ketones and low blood glucose. So there's like this myth that if you manipulate the numbers and you have really high ketones and low blood sugar, that you're going to be in fat burning mode and lose weight. No, that is literally when I gained 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Was when I was doing that, because I wasn't satisfied, and I had high ketones and low blood sugar, but I still gained 20 pounds. And so, there's all these things that people say as absolutes in this kind of space. And I'm just like, oh, you and I both, I think, get the fallout of.
Yeah, that was me. I mean, I like, even one of my best friends, she decided to try carnivore at one point last year. And then she gained like 15, 20 pounds from doing high fat 80-20.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And it's like super, super high fat is, I mean, you have to burn through the fat too, like you know what I mean, to get to the fat that's on your body. So there's definitely a balance there. And I think that for me, also, exposing that, that like that might not work for you. And just because she's losing 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds, we see it all over the Instagram world with the top influencers. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I mean, also extreme dieting and eating disorders. And we have no idea what's going on.
That's the thing. Like
the scenes.
I never name names or anything like that. I'm just not going to do that as part of my platform, but I will just throw out a word of caution that you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And somebody could show you their food, or they could even, I see this, they'll film themselves eating or taking a big bite out of whatever food, but you look at them and they're like clearly not eating that much food. They are looking malnourished and thinner and thinner and thinner, to the point where it's like, that's probably not even healthy, And so just because they put a video in their stories or take a video of themselves taking a bite of whatever food, you don't actually know what is happening behind that camera. And so my biggest thing is like, don't just take their word for it. And especially if you're trying it and you're not getting those results, and you're having results that are actually hurting your body, please take a step back and please unplug, unfollow, because you literally don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it's like the more like extreme someone is, it seems like the more popular they get, that's rewarded. It's frustrating.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed too. The more, and also, I was having an interview with someone yesterday. Like, it's like the vegan community, the carnivore community, and I feel like somewhere keto falls in between, somewhere in there.
Keto people are a little more reasonable, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to get some hate for saying that, but my keto friends are a little bit more reasonable than some of the carnivore.
Yeah, but then, I have vegan friends still. Like, one of my best friends is vegan, and then I have the carnivore community. I don't really know much carnivores around here, but mostly people that I know are keto or low carb or just normal, regular, eat whatever they want people. But it's interesting to watch. Like, it's the same, they're like doing the same thing to each other, the extreme ones. I'm like, this is silly, guys. This is really silly. But then you see their numbers go up and up and up, and you're like, okay, I see why you're doing this, because it feels good. It feels good to be rewarded, and then all of a sudden kind of be a celebrity in the community.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, you see, like, with this, what's his name? The Liver King, who came out and was like,
Right. And that was like a big, like, here's my thing with a lot of these influencers that are looking very eating disordered and very thin. If they were to come out tomorrow and say, I've been lying about what I've been eating or whatever, I'd be like, duh. Just like I was with Liver King, when he comes out and people are like so shocked that he was on, all these drugs. I'm like, let's file that under obvious, just like a lot of these influencers. I'm like, again, let's file that under obvious. However, people get so blurry vision because someone has a certain amount of followers, and they think because they have this follower and this crowd, whatever, that there's no way they would be on drugs or not eating the things that they say that they're eating, and not be struggling with a severe eating disorder. And there's, it's just people, we need to keep on having, I think, these kinds of conversations. So like, I want to title this like something that's, I want to be honest, but I almost want to like clickbaity title it so more people will listen to it.
Absolutely.
So if you guys are listening to this, please share it with people.
I think it's important. I do. I see people where it's clearly obvious that they're not eating what they're showing as their 3, sometimes 4 huge plates of food.
Right.
I'm like, I don't even eat that much.
No, because when I was eating that much, I was gaining 20 pounds, people that are saying they're eating a stick of butter a day. I'm sorry, but I literally gained 20 pounds, and I'm not a small person. I'm 5'7", almost 5'8". Like, I'm a pretty tall person, and my weight distributes really evenly. I'm blessed in that regard, but I cannot eat sticks of butter and and not work out. And it doesn't work for me. And so, it's just
the best I've ever done. The best I've ever done is when I was and I should say this is outside of the ulcerative colitis, because I did end up at carnivore because I just was frustrated with which veggies were causing me issues.
Yeah. And I think it's so helpful, and I don't want to throw it out, and I don't want to tell people carnivore is bullshit. Don't ever do it. It's stupid. No, there's a lot of therapeutic and helpful things that people can experience when they do carnivore. It's just that the pendulum swings,
Yep.
it's going to swing back the other way at some point,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think too, I didn't read all of Paul Saladino's book, but I do know that in there, when he was like hardcore, like carnivore, when he came out with that, he did say somewhere in there that it was meant to be like a 3-month, I don't know what he's doing now, but like 3-month,
he's eating all the tropical fruits and telling people in Canada to do that. And I'm like, no, that's not the answer either, Paul.
Nope. So it's just, but really, truly like listening to yourself. And I think that for me, in my experience, like I talk about, I have this intuition, I have this intuitive knowing that like, maybe it was this, and following that. And like, if you can't go and get all these tests done and everything, like you were saying, making small shifts on educating. Yeah. You can get like some books instead, or like go on YouTube or look up studies, and I don't know about, and educate yourself, and then experiment. Like, I think it's key that I had to experiment to figure out like, okay, I'm going into my 40s. My leptin did something funky. My T3 is something fun. And I honestly think if I go check, that was August. If I go check now, which I'm planning on doing again here soon, I think I'm going to see some difference just because I started eating regular meals again. And yeah, just really truly listening to myself and finding those people that you resonate with, not people that you are trying to
be like.
Yeah. Like, she's skinny. That's what I want.
That's what I want.
Yeah. And it's like, does that resonate with you? Does that bring peace? And also like with food, like for me, there's foods that feel peaceful and there's foods that don't feel peaceful. And so when I eat local and I eat, and I go to the local butcher and I do, like, that feels connected and like I'm helping the environment. I'm, and I don't do nail polish and whatever. I gave up mascara for these like organic, whatever bandy things with a organic little stick on thing, because I'm like, I'll stick these on, and so, because I do like mascara, but I also don't. And I just feel like I can transition into where I can throw these on and pull them off. And it's so much easier than putting those chemical swipey things. And they have so many great, like, clean brands.
There's a lot of great clean brands. I don't wear hardly anything anymore. It's pathetic. And I use beef tallow on my skin.
That's me. It's in like, my hair, I use a tallow bar from a local lady here, and I wash my hair with that. But I just think if you are someone who's spending all your money on all of that stuff, what if you didn't for 2 months and you spent it on some high quality food and really connecting to the earth, and make it about connectedness rather than weight?
Yeah, that's the thing that's so hard. I'll get people that are like, okay, I'm trying to do all the things that you're saying to do, and the weight hasn't come off yet. And I'm like, look, when I went on this journey of trying to lose weight and all this stuff, and then it turned into fertility, and I stopped caring about the weight loss because all I wanted was to have a baby. And it was just like, if I can just get my body ready to have a baby, I don't really care how much I weigh. And I had kind of let that go. And so I was really strict about sunrise, breakfast, like all these things. I didn't lose any weight for the first month, and I was fine with it because I was sleeping through the night. I had great energy. I felt mentally the best I had felt. I felt so good. And then month 2, I literally dropped 30 pounds, and I wasn't trying to lose the weight. I wasn't like, I set out like on a weight loss journey. And so I think we have to like shift a little bit. That's why a lot of my posts lately, I've been like talking more about sleep and sleep quality, and my messages have been blowing up of people like, okay, I can't sleep, and they start telling me about all these sleep problems. I'm like, okay, well then, I think that my program could be really helpful for you, because that's one of the first things people report with my leptin program is like, the sleep is better. And they're like, well, I need meal plans, and how much weight am I going to lose? And I'm like, so yeah, I think it's just important that we keep on having these conversations around overall health and sleep and stress levels rather than making it just geared around being as skinny as possible and weight loss, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's hard.
It is
And
hard.
I think that, people should know that it's going to be hard. And for me, it was hard for a very long time because of eating disorder, and because of I have eating disorders and binge eating and all of the things that I have recovered from. I found towards the end of my carnivore journey, my strict carnivore journey, there was a 3-week period of time where I absolutely felt like I was going backwards in my recovery, and like I felt like I couldn't go anywhere. And the holidays were coming up. It was like getting ready. We were like 3 weeks for Thanksgiving, and I was having anxiety about going to somewhere where I go every year, and I've been totally fine. And all of a sudden, I was having anxiety about it. I was having fears. I was concerned that we're not even going to, I'm from Nepal. We're not even going to Nepal anytime soon. But in my mind, I was like, how am I going to go there? How am I? And just like traveling. And now it's just, I feel this feeling of freedom again from just getting quiet. And I know what's good for me and what's not good for me, because of the years of experimentation that I've done. And so I know that like I don't just go eat a piece of cake. That would be really bad for not my sanity, but also my liver. My liver enzymes do the same thing with sugar that alcohol does. Very, very strange. But I once ate a box too many chocolates basically in 2011 and ended up blacking out completely.
Wow.
I had nothing but sugar. And I don't remember coming home from work. All the ladies had brought their Valentine's candy from their husbands and their boyfriends to work. And I was like, well, I didn't get lunch. I was running the place that day. So I was like, I'll just keep eating this. And then I went home. And at the time I was living with my parents, and my mom was like, yeah, you were really weird yesterday. And I pretty much blacked out. I did black out. I woke up the next morning. I didn't remember anything. I went in for immediately. I was like, you guys need to test me right now. Something is wrong. And I had some blood work done. And my doctor, who knows that I had been sober at that point, 6 years, going on 6 years, she was like, did you drink last night? Did you have a pint of vodka last night? Like something crazy? And I was like, didn't. She's like, your liver enzymes are showing us that you drank about a pint of vodka or more.
Wow.
And like to black out. And I was like, no, I eat a lot of sugar. She's like, yeah, you should probably stop eating sugar.
Wow. That's crazy. Your body just couldn't handle it.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, pretty sensitive. And also now and then I started feeling like, well, my protein, is protein doing the same thing to me? Like, that's the one thing that I felt like I could eat, and then I was having these high numbers, and it was just like, I was eating like 60, like you're saying, like something like 60, 55 to 60 grams of protein
per meal.
And so now having the smaller meals, the 3 smaller meals, that doesn't seem to be, I'm not having that kind of a spike. But yeah, just feeling more freedom around. And look, and sometimes I can't get local something like,
right. Oh yeah, totally. That's the thing, is like, we can't be perfect. And I don't think you even have to be perfect, to be honest. Like, that's what I want people to maybe walk away from the conversation with, this idea of like, you don't have to be perfect to heal. And I think that the biggest thing that I take from your story is that the most healing happened for you when you kind of pulled back a little bit and stopped being a part of this like dogmatic group think. And we're able to just reflect, and that, and having some conversations with you offline, just on direct messages on Instagram a few weeks ago. That's one of the things that you were expressing to me, that I was like, all right, we need to just like have a conversation for my podcast, because you were just like, look, I've been, meditating, praying, doing some of my recovery work around this whole food thing. And I'm just seeing that I need to pull back away from it a little bit and and not try to hit this like perfect carnivore diet or perfect keto diet and do this in a way that, is not interfering with your happiness and becoming this obsession. And I think that's a conversation that we need to continue having in this space, because a lot of people that are attracted to these diets also have these more addictive personalities and tendencies. And so, this is about recovering our health. And if you're in that obsessive compulsive space, that's going to make it that much harder for you to get the results that you want with your health, Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think this has just been a ridiculously good, helpful conversation. Do you have any closing thoughts, or how can people find you if they want? I know you do some coaching. Let's just kind of talk about that a little bit.
So people can find me on Instagram, primal.kumari@gmail.com. And then also I have a YouTube channel. And then, everything that you want to find out about me, you're going to find there. You can click the link in the bio, find my website, et cetera, et cetera. And then really, I think my main message is, over and over and over, is bio-individuality. We're all different. Like, you and I are perfect examples of, I don't know how many women out there are like us, where they can eat high fat and gain weight. They can eat protein and gain weight. They can be low carb all they want and gain weight.
Yeah.
And like, sleep matters, all of so like nature, also diet, obviously, like for you. And the other key we didn't really touch much on for me is that mental aspect. Like, how's my mental health? What are the things? The reason why I was able to figure out like something's not right here towards the end of that carnivore stint is because mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, I was not in peace. Things are gone for me, which is a mental thing. When my mental health starts to go into these darker places where I'm now not having the peace that I'm used to having in my body, that's a sign for me that I need to take a look at what's going on in my environment, maybe my food, and like my thoughts as well, like what's triggering all of these things. And then I was able to, pull back, like you said. So really also thinking about what's going on in your mind, and taking that sort of holistic approach to looking at all things rather than just the diet.
Exactly.
And the gurus, like, they're not the end all be all. And I'm telling you guys, just because I'm very private, like on my account, nobody knows the rest of my life. Like nobody, like nothing. They only see what I choose to show, which is my health journey. Nothing else is like really on my page. So that's just a really good example of, you have no idea whether I'm watching God knows what without my blue blockers on, which probably doesn't happen ever. You don't know that, and I'm more of I do share more authentically, but like I'm also very private. Yeah. So keeping that in mind and taking some time to really get to know yourself is really what I would have to say.
I think that's super important. Well, I'll definitely make sure to include all of your links down below so people can follow you if they want to, and get in touch with you, maybe get some coaching even. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me today. I think it's been really great.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This is wonderful. Thank you for everything that you're putting out too. It's just so awesome.
Oh, you're so welcome.